Come on, toughen up. Just push through it. Nobody cares about your emotions, Stop whining. I feel that is how the society, or how in popular opinion, we see mental toughness. It is about pushing through. It is about being projecting confidence, pushing through pain, ignoring any type of pain, and especially ignoring any type of emotion, right? If you want to be mentally tough, none of that matters. You just are super confident, and that's that. Nothing is going to get in your way. Well, maybe if you are like me, you have tried that. I have tried to project confidence, and then I never ended up following up on it, I wasn't as successful as I pretended to be. I wasn't as confident as I pretended to be. And that in the end was much worse, Then there is the pushing through pain, which I've also done, ignoring it. And then eventually I couldn't ignore it anymore. And it was probably much worse than if I had reacted to it earlier, when the pain came up. And what was the third one? Oh, pushing through emotion, my favorite one. Shoving aside emotions, ignoring them, pretending they don't exist. Just, keep them bottled up somewhere else for them to show up in the worst possible situation. And me having an emotional outburst, which is totally disproportionate or out of proportion to the actual situation on hand. And no. So maybe you've experienced that as well. And the conclusion of this should not be that I, and maybe you, if you'd had similar experiences, that we're not tough. It's just that we have the definition wrong. We have our understanding of it wrong, because that's not what mental toughness is. And today in this episode, I'm going to clean up with that. we're going to talk about mental toughness. So welcome to the Healthy and Aligned podcast. My name is Lisa. I'm your host. I am a mindset coach. I am a tapping coach. And I love to talk about anything that is related to our mindset, to how we can actively create a life that we really want to live, the life of our dreams, and how we become the person that lives that life that we desire to have, right? So I love talking about these things, and today I feel mental toughness is a topic that really aligns well with the quest to live the life of our dreams, because I'm going to cover what mental toughness is. I'm going to kind of debunk it, and we can redefine it together. I'm going to give you some input on it. We will talk a little bit about the science behind it and really understand the key behaviors that are part of being mentally tough. And of course, we're going to conclude the episode with some actionable strategies and tactics that we can implement in our daily life but how to train our mental toughness and just get better at it. So let's get going. So what is mental toughness? So listen carefully. We're going to define it. So mental toughness is the ability to resist, to manage, and to overcome doubts, worries, concerns, or circumstances, or something along those lines that prevent us from going after our goals, from excelling at a specific task that we want. So basically it is resisting, managing, overcoming whatever is between us and where we want to be. And if we want to take it a step further even, it's not just resisting, managing, and overcoming. It is actually performing under that pressure. It is, looking looking for these types of adversities, looking for these challenges and these difficulties that can be in the way between us and what we want to achieve. It is like an active search for challenges that make us stronger, that make us bigger. So first level of mental toughness is being able to resist it, to manage it, to just, be able to hold up whatever you're doing in adversity. And then the next level of mental toughness is thriving in it and being like, yeah, adversity, challenges, that's my juice, that's my fuel, that's, what makes me bigger, better, and stronger. So yeah, I would see it in sort of like two levels. And here that I said it's an ability, right? An ability is something we can develop. It's a skill, it's a competence. It's not something that, is there or it isn't. It is something that we can work on. It's a mental muscle that we actually get to train. And also, when you listen carefully, it's not just about endurance. It is about learning. It is about growing. It is about using those difficulties and those challenges to come out stronger at the other end. So yeah, that is what mental toughness is. And there was no word about ignoring pain, But let's talk about some of the key elements that make out mental toughness, because I still think it's sort of a vague expression, even though we defined it a little bit, but what does that actually look like? And there are 4 main components of mental toughness that have been found in different research papers and different studies, and they're not always called the same way, and sometimes there are 6, sometimes there are 5, but in the end I think those 4 kind of like encompass the general understanding and the general idea of mental toughness. And the first one is resilience. Resilience is a skill, again, all of these things are skills, is a skill that explains how we bounce back from setbacks, how we recover from failure, how we learn from failure. And resilience often is described, with the help of, imagine a bamboo stick, right? Because bamboo is super resilient. It's very difficult to break a bamboo stick. They're bendy. Like if you apply pressure to it, it bends to it. And then if you let go of the pressure, it really snaps back with a lot of force, right? And that's what often is used to explain resilience. So the more resilient you are, the bendier, if that is a word, you are, or more bendable, or I don't know, you are before you crack, right? And the force with which you bounce back is also an important element of it. So resilience, bouncing back from setbacks, is definitely, like, even how I explain it, doesn't that sound like a tough cookie? Someone who bounces back from, force, from pressure with so much power. To me, that sounds so much like a mentally tough person. So yeah, I love that image to it. I think it helps so much to understand resilience. And it basically is not just the bouncing back, but it's the becoming stronger because of it, right? It is the learning from it. It's the enduring and growth in one. The next thing is focus. So having a laser-like focus on what matters to you is, it's priceless. It is like you are so clear about the purpose, about the why you're doing something, about where exactly you're going. There is no room for distractions for you. You're just like going straight at it. And when challenges hit you, when there are bumps in the road or something, you'll never lose your focus. You know exactly where to go and what you do. And again, I feel that's a very good description of someone who, portrays or demonstrates some type of mental toughness, like even when things get difficult, they never lose sight of where they're going, of what they want. And yeah, you combine resilience with focus. Ooh, it's already, you're strong. You're great. Now let's add the third component to it, and that is determination. And sometimes I feel like determination and focus is used a bit interchangeably, but it is different. While the focus is the knowing where to look, where to go, having a clear direction, having that clear path towards your dreams, determination is what keeps you going, is the fuel. It's the relentless pursuit of, going for it. It's never stopping. It's the maybe even stupid refusal to quit. That is determination. Because if you don't quit, you can only win. If you keep going, you know where to go. You bounce back stronger if something happens to you, and you just don't quit. I mean, what is supposed to happen, right? So those three things, that is mental toughness. But there is a fourth one. And that last piece of the puzzle is emotional control. So having that clear understanding that your emotions are there for a reason and that your emotions are an important part of who you are is crucial, because emotions are information. Emotions are, it's a neurophysical reaction in your body, right? That is triggered by something. That is triggered by something in your environment that maybe your body picked up on, maybe your subconscious picked up on, maybe, it's like a hyper fast processing of a wealth of information that you're not even aware of that it's happening, and the result of that processing is an emotion, right? And that is so valuable. That is so important to pay attention to, because it wants to tell you something, right? And understanding at the same time that an emotion is just that, an emotion, an information, a result of information processing, and not a command. Like, you get to decide how you react to a specific emotion. You are not at their mercy. Your life is not ruled by emotions, or it doesn't have to be. Maybe it is right now, but it doesn't have to be. It is up to you how you react to it. And so instead of ignoring emotions, managing emotions, taking in all that information and using it, and not letting it run the show, but being grateful for having that knowledge, that additional knowledge for you, that is the last piece of the puzzle of mental toughness. So we have resilience, we have focus, determination, and emotional control, or emotion control, however you want to call it. So those are the four most important elements. And if you're like me at all, you're already like going in your head like, oh, I'm good at this, I'm not so good at this, I wish I was better at this. You start to already like put yourself somewhere on a scale on these four components. But before we talk about, what we can do to get stronger at those things, let's look again at the misconceptions, because that's how I started this episode. And I feel like, especially when it comes to mental toughness, there is so much like popular opinion about it, of what it's supposed to look like. And again, pay attention. I just defined it. I gave you the key components. There was nothing about, fake confidence or pushing through pain or pushing away your emotions. It's the contrary. It is not about pushing away your emotions. It is taking in your emotions. We are emotional beings. That's what humans are. We are thinkers. We are emotional. And I know that it triggers people when I say that we are emotional people or beings. But I think what they misunderstand when I say that we are emotional, they probably picture someone who is completely like a slave to their emotions. And that's not at all what I'm saying. It's that we have emotions for a reason, and they're so valuable, they're so important. They can be such a good motivator. They can be such good tools for us, because fear can give you so much power. They can give you that extra oomph. Anger releases so much like strength in your body. Or spite. Sometimes spite, it's an ugly emotion, I think. Well, I shouldn't say that all emotions are fine, but, it's not a pretty thing. But, spite can be a very, very good fuel, or revenge, or those things, So I believe that we can use our emotions to our advantage and not shove them aside, push them aside, ignore them. Because let me tell you, if you ignore an emotion, it'll be like, but I got something to tell you. There's something important here that you need to pay attention to. And you're like, Nana, I don't hear you. You don't exist. It'll knock on your door again. And maybe that time it'll knock louder. And you, again, don't answer the door. And it will keep knocking. It'll keep getting louder. It'll keep getting more persistent because it really wants to tell you something. And then one day, it'll just come bursting through your door. And you know what? It'll come bursting through your door in the worst moment. It is not when you are chill at home on your couch and you can contain the situation. No, it's going to be in a high pressure, high stakes situation where people see you, where you react in the worst possible way. I've seen athletes burst, we've all seen athletes. I'm not gonna, give examples, but we've all seen top athletes in front of international cameras, like on TV in one of the most important games of their life. Or races or whatever of their life, do the stupidest things, do embarrassing things. They are, they explode because in that moment, their emotion that they try to ignore just comes through the door. And we don't want that. We don't want that to happen. Instead, we will listen to our emotion. Instead, we pay attention to them and we use them as fuel, as motivators, and also as insights. Because often fears or doubts or insecurities and those types of emotions, they point us towards a direction where we could be better, where we could, pay more attention to or train for or be more specific about or learn more about, So I feel that emotions, especially the so-called unwanted or negative or however you want to call them emotions, I think they're all welcome because, I just said it. I don't want to repeat myself, but it's beautiful, I think. And we're just not robots. Let's just accept the fact that we're not. Now, what else? Oh, another misconception. Oh, you're either born tough or not. And honestly, I don't really want to go into that whole nature-nurture debate, but I strongly disagree with the fact that you are born mentally tough. Again, it's an ability. It is something that you get to learn and develop and get better at. It's a mental muscle we get to train. And I believe, it's obviously also the whole discussion about fixed mindset and growth mindset that we started, 3 episodes back. So I believe that with effort and work, you can get better at something and you can define who you really are and who you really want to be rather than you are predetermined and fixed. I do believe that we all are born with our own unique, specific, individual, personal mission statement, our purpose, and that our whole being, like the things that come easy to us, the things that are joyful to us, they are all pointers towards our purpose. Like if we follow those things, we are very much aligned in living in our purpose, right? And the things that we dream about, that we get really excited about, like the crazy, ludicrous dreams that we have that we don't really dare to talk about. When you close your eyes and you really, remove all limitations and you can feel like every cell in your body is like electrified by the idea. If we trust those, doing the things that we're good at, following the things that bring joy to us, we are well on our way. So I do believe that that is the case for each and every one of us. And within that setting, though, you can be whoever you want to be. You can express that in whatever way you want to express that. And we can grow, we can learn, we can become bigger and better and faster and stronger in the way that we choose to, in the way that is joyful to us. And there is a reason. Like, I never had the dream, even the thought of becoming an international top soccer player, and be at the Olympic Games or be at the whatever World Cup, I guess, and soccer is more important, play in the national team in the soccer World Cup. I never had that dream. And I know that there are a lot of people out there who do have that dream and who are going to be that person and who are eventually someone who we will see on TV playing for, those national teams. And there's a reason why I don't have that dream. I have different dreams, right? And I have a different setup, to live that dream that I have. And so I believe that within that context, we get to be however and whoever we want to be, if that makes sense. So no, I don't think you are born with mental toughness. I believe that you can train it, you can develop it, you can get better at it if that is something that you want and that is something that you consider important for you. And the last misconception that I would like to mention is the whole idea of pushing through pain, and I think that's an interesting one because, again, pain, distress, discomfort, whether it is physical or mental, it's information for us, right? It is something telling us that, watch out, something is happening. And it is, according to the definition, it is something that is in the way between us and reaching our goal or doing, excelling at a specific task or doing what we set out to do. So definitely it is. I think the thing with pain is that we gotta be smart about it. So pushing through pain can be the right answer and it can be the wrong answer. I feel like we need to understand when it makes sense and when it doesn't. When we need to rest, when we need to recharge, rejuvenate, when we need to heal. We need to understand what are the consequences of pushing through the pain. Is it just sore muscles? Maybe we can push through that. But is it like a serious injury and pushing through it will make it worse and will make recovery so much longer? Maybe not. Be smart about it and also consider your circumstance. If it's the first game of the season, maybe you react differently than if it is one of the last games in the playoffs. You probably push yourself through much more pain in the playoffs because the consequences of you taking rest are so different than maybe the first game or the second game or whatever of the season where the consequences might not be as dire, So be smart about pain management and understanding better how to deal with it. And maybe that's also an interesting topic to talk about in an episode. So let me know if you think that's interesting, pain management. But it is also a lot of mental work when we talk about pain. So yeah, I think in general, it's about being smart when it comes to that. So a quick excursion into the science of mental toughness. And I just want to quickly touch on it because it is about neuroplasticity. So that is a topic I have talked about before. And neuroplasticity refers to the process that happens in our brains where we build neuropathways. Wow, that's a mouthful. And that basically means that the more we do a specific thing, the more we repeat it, the more we train it, the better is the communication within different parts of our brains. And the stronger gets the communication channel, let me put it this way, between different parts of our brains. So when you do something for the first time, you feel really awkward, you're not really good at it, and it's a bit like, ooh, how does this work? Let's say you're throwing your first 3-pointer in basketball, right? The first one, I mean, maybe you were lucky and, you hit it, maybe you were not, but it was probably an awkward situation. And, you didn't look very elegant and very athletic doing it. However, once you do 100 of them, once you do 1,000 of them, it looks very different. You know the process, like the order of movements that you need, where to put your hip, where you put your foot, where to put your hand, like all of these things, and you get better and better and better at it. And you can start working on specific small details because you don't have to pay attention to your feet anymore. You don't have to pay attention to how you hold your left hand anymore, because you have created those strong pathways in your brain that allow your brain sort of to run it on autopilot, right? And you don't have to be like very conscious about it. I think that's what people refer to often as well when you drive a car. In the beginning, you have to pay attention to everything, and it's so exhausting, and it's just so many different parts that you have to pay attention to. And then eventually you get to drive and have like the most difficult conversations, or feel like listen to an audiobook or whatever, and you don't pay attention, to exactly each hand move anymore as you did in the beginning. Again, that is because you have practiced those pathways, because you have trained your brain to drive a car or to throw a 3-pointer or whatever it is. And that's, again, then when you can use your mental capacity for other things. So that's why neuroplasticity is such a super important concept to understand, I believe, because it allows me to kind of convince myself to practice and convince myself to train and do things over and over and over again, because I know I will inevitably get better at it. There is the science to back it up, right? It's not just motivational things like, oh yeah, just keep going, just, follow and never quit and la la la, all the smart things that people say. There's science behind it. It makes sense, actually, if you understand how that works. So every time we choose a challenge, every time we face adversity and go for it anyways, and not avoid it, not shy away from it, but we go for it and we are curious about it, and we are, willing to face whatever is coming towards us, we train our brain to be braver. We train our brain to be more courageous, to be more daring maybe. And also, the more we do that, the easier it is for us to stay calm, to stay focused when things get difficult, when the pressure is up, and you are in this crazy high stakes situation where so many things are happening and your mind is occupied with so many different things. The more you have trained yourself beforehand of those situations, the easier it is then to deal with that. So mental toughness, I'm making, another point that mental toughness is a skill, an ability that we get to learn. We get to invest in training to be resilient. We get to train to be focused, to be determined, to be in emotional control, because all of these things, they sound beautiful on paper, especially emotional control. I feel like when I say it, it makes so much sense, at least it does to me. But the amount of times that I find myself in a situation where I am emotional and I am not in control of my behavior, or it feels like I'm not in control of my behavior, and I burst and I do things I don't want to do, or I react in a way that, I wish I had reacted differently. Like, it is something that I am consciously training, and I can see myself get better at it, but I'm not there yet. I don't know if I ever will be, and that's fine, because, I think it's human as well to sometimes, be overly emotional or, say things that we regret after. But the more I can get better at this, the more I get to train this, the more I feel that I get to decide my path and decide my future, right? So knowing that there will be so many more emotional outbursts in my life, that's okay, because I know I'm in training, right? I am a student to emotional control and to all of the other things. So understanding that and allowing yourself to practice emotional toughness with the understanding of neuroplasticity, I think it's a very good combination. There have been a couple of studies around mental toughness, especially with athletes. And in general, they have like the four components, key components that I mentioned earlier, they are the result of a couple of studies as well. And they have found that it is definitely a skill to be acquired. It is a skill you get to develop. So I'm not just saying that, it's what the science says as well. And also they found that people who are mentally tough, so who check those four boxes of the key components, they are also more confident because it is sort of a cycle that reinforces itself, right? So if you go for a challenge, you face it, you face the difficulties, you go through it, you practice it, you overcome it, and you come out stronger the other end, you now know that you are capable of doing things, which makes you more confident. And the more confident you are, the more likely you are to face those challenges and, do the difficult things. So confidence and mental toughness, they definitely go hand in hand. And who doesn't want to be more self-confident, especially if you want to, go far and beyond and be someone great? Confidence is definitely a key component to that. So yeah, let's talk about strategies on how we can build mental toughness. And I have like a couple of steps for you. And before we talk about the steps, the very first thing that we need to do, and that I hope I did so far in this episode, is redefining what mental toughness is. So again, it is not fake confidence. It is not pushing through pain, ignoring emotions, all of that bullshit. Let's just completely forget that. And remember that mental toughness is a skill which has four key components. I'm going to brainwash you now. I'm going to repeat it so often that you will remember it. The first is resilience. Then we have focus, determination, and the last one is emotional control. That is what defines mental toughness. And that is what we get to train. So let's talk about those steps. First step, check your goals. Check the goals that you have and make sure that they are personal goals. They are goals that are important to you and not necessarily goals to impress other people. Maybe whatever is important to you also impresses other people. That's great, no problem with that. However, when we practice mental toughness, it means that we actively search out challenges and adversities. And that is hard. It is hard. There will be moments where you feel like shit and you question yourself, you doubt yourself, and knowing why you're doing it and understanding how important this goal is to you will allow you to stay focused and determined so much better. It is so much easier if you do it for yourself than if you do it for someone else, right? So reassess your goals and make sure those are really aligned with who you are and more importantly, who you want to be, right? Who you want to become in the long term. And then I guess that's the next step. When these doubts come, as they inevitably will, because they do for all of us, right? Those thoughts where you question your whole journey and, will you be able to do this? You have that fear of failure that we talked about last week. When you have those things come up for you, take them in. Don't follow up on them, but listen to it. What comes up for you? Which doubts do you actually have? Because those doubts tell you something about where you believe you could be better, where you believe that you have room for improvement. So doubt and fears, excellent information, for your strategies, for your tactics. You know what to focus on when you look at where you're most doubtful. So ignoring everything that comes up is not going to be helpful, So you get to change your current strategies, your tactics, your workout plan, your training plan, your preparations, whatever you're going for, based on that information, based on the doubts that you have, based on the fear that comes up for you. Now, when we talk about goals, I think I might have mentioned that in another episode as well. It is important to have different sets of goals, right? Because there are these dreams, the ones that I mentioned earlier, the ones that just feel so good, but they seem so impossible and so out there, like high flying goals, like become the fastest person on the planet, or win the World Cup, or be a CEO of a specific company, or I have no idea, like what you dream of, maybe one of those things is close to that, but it seems so far from your current reality, and that is okay. That's why those things are dreams, because they give us the general direction of where we want to go. And now it's important to break those dreams down into goals, into manageable targets, actually, things that are in your control, things that you can actively work towards, and it's hard to get there. You will have to stretch yourself to get there. It's not like you do it and you're done. Like they are definitely outside of your comfort zone, but they are possible. And I think it's starting to rain really hard right now. I'm not sure how much the microphone is picking up, but it is what it is, right? So those goals are very important to have. And again, ideally, they are aligned with, the personal motivation, your personal individual purpose, and not just some goals that have been, given to you by outside people or the environment or society, but something that is really important to you. And having those manageable targets will foster or feed your determination. It is a great motivator to, check a target off your list, check a goal off your list. And, it's a good feeling. You can see me smile because I recently checked one off my list, and it's a damn good feeling, So I recommend having that, and knowing that those targets, those goals will get you closer to your dream. What else? Oh yeah, another thing that we can do to practice our brain, to practice our mental inner strength, is to automate whatever we think is most important to reaching our goals, right? So we have the dreams, we have the goals and the targets, and we know how we can get there, what we need to do to get there. Usually it's activities, right? It's training, it's practice, it's rehearsals, it's whatever. And including those, like breaking those down into individual steps, individual tasks, and the most important ones, the ones that have the biggest impact, put them into your routines, into your daily habits. Because what happens when we do that is that we automate the process. We take out the negotiations with ourselves, like, I don't really feel like, working out right now. I don't really feel like going for a run, la la la. No, it's a non-negotiable. It's a habit. You don't think about it. It happens, right? And you get to practice that reinforcing positive habit in that context to build your resilience, to build that muscle of showing up for yourself, of, showing yourself the respect, showing your goals the respect that you do it. And you do it without asking, without questioning. And again, that is something that we can practice, the doing it anyways muscle. Don't feel like it, do it anyways. That is definitely something that we can make easier for ourselves if we automate those processes, if we include that into habits, into routines, into things that we do anyways. So yeah, why not make it easier, right? And that over time, again, will give us more confidence, will make us feel like we're on the right track, we're on the right way, and make us feel stronger in our conviction and in our direction. And I guess I'm not sure if most important is the right way to say it, but definitely an important thing is to regularly check in with yourself. Reflect on what you're doing. Reflect on those routines that you created. Reflect on those habits. Check in with yourself if the goals are really still your goals, if everything that you're doing is going in the direction that is supporting you. Because we want to stay healthy. And sometimes with all these routines and the goals and, like all of these plans and systems that we set up for ourselves, we might put ourselves into a corset that we don't want to be in. And it stifles our freedom, our, sense of expression and our individuality. And we feel stuck in sort of the box that we built for ourselves. And that is not good. And that is not mental toughness, to just stay in the box anyways because we once said that we were going to do it. No, regularly check in with yourself to make sure that you are physically healthy, that you are mentally healthy, and that this is still joyful to you. Not every moment has to be pure joy. Of course, that's fine. Sometimes it sucks. I mean, we're talking about mental toughness here, right? So no, not everything is, rainbows and glitter. But overall, your life, your journey, your direction should be joyful to you. It should be something that you really truly enjoy. And that is important, because if it isn't, you're completely wasting your time doing that. For what? So having that regular check-in with yourself and that honest review, and show yourself the respect and the self-love to adjust and change your plans where needed, instead of being stubborn and just sticking with it because, a past version of you decided that that is the right way to go. So yeah, I think those are like general strategies, general ideas, things that you can do and think about in your daily life. And I think that brings me to the end of this episode. I think I said what I needed to say about it, and I am so excited to talk about this topic of mental toughness, especially because it has been so misunderstood and so used wrongly, in a hurtful way, I think, to a lot of people. And at the same time, it is such a fundamental necessity, a fundamental skill for anyone who wants to go far and beyond, who wants to be that person and become great, right? Be great. And especially in the world of sports and athletics, there are so many high pressure moments, so many high stakes situations and now or never, situations. It's crazy. The amount of competition there is, the amount of mental games that are happening between athletes, with coaches, between teams, and then there is media, and then there is, rankings and judges and referees, and all of this is high pressure because in the end, sports is usually competition based, right? So having that mental toughness and that mental muscle of inner strength, having it trained, having it strong, that can be the differentiator between victory and defeat. Because, everyone is physically great at a certain level, and then the mental game really makes a difference. So I think that mental conditioning that needs to happen in the world of sports through various tactics, there is visualization, which is super powerful. There is goal setting, which I kind of touched on today as well. There is self-talk. Have you listened to top athletes? They're all talking to themselves. It's such a powerful tool. And I am going to have an episode on all of these topics because I feel like we can learn so much from these top athletes in any area of life. So I'm definitely going to talk about that. But putting in the work, I believe, is completely worth it. So now, in the next episode, we are going to talk about confidence. I kind of talked about confidence a little bit today, but it's such an interesting topic, and it is something that will help me, help you, help us in any situation, in any part of our life, whether we are athletes or in corporate or just want to be a person that, lives a better life. Self-confidence is definitely not a bad thing to have, So yeah, I'm really excited about that episode. That's a good one. And if you gained any insights today, if you learned anything new, or if you just enjoy these type of contents, let me know. Rate this podcast, give it a review, subscribe to it, because you know how these algorithms work. It's those things that allow the podcast to be seen by more people. And then also in turn, it allows me to do it for a long time to come, which is what I would love to do. So I would highly appreciate if you subscribe, if you rate it, if you give me a review. And until the next week when we talk about building self-confidence, I wish you a beautiful rest of your day.